Are we ready?
Okay. So welcome back to everyone from home and here in presence. Sorry for our long lunch, but you know, again, we like to chat a lot, evidently. So I'm leaving the floor to my colleague Stefano Sala, who will take care of this afternoon speeches, which are dedicated to the public administration experiences inside the project and their piloting activities for policies dedicated to research and innovation. The first one to speak today, and then I leave the floor, is Elena Banci from Area Science Park, who will introduce their work done on the policy brief. So what are the suggestions that you are giving to PA after our long experimentation journeys? So please welcome Elena.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. And I would like, first of all, to apologize for not being there in person. But fortunately, Roberta Ruggeri, who is our external scientific expert working for the Università Politecnica delle Marche, is there to present our work, that is to say, the policy brief. So my name is Elena Banci, and I work for Area Science Park. That was the work package 2 leader. That was most of all focused on the definition of the policy brief. As you know, our project, the ARING project, is focused on inspiring a change in the governance model. And according to this approach, the policy brief represents a very useful tool to get recommendations on policy options for public administrations, which are willing to work synergically at the formulation of a common S3. Now I will give the floor to Roberta, who I would like really thank really very much for being there, and she will present the main contents of the policy brief. It's very important to say also that all the analytic activity was coordinated by Professor Donato Jacobucci. Thank you to everybody, and I give the floor to Roberta.
Thank you and good afternoon. So we can show our slide. We will introduce the policy brief. I will try to go quite fast, but please feel free to interrupt me for any questions. So as Elena Banci already mentioned, the aims of the policy brief is firstly to give an advice to public administration in the Alpine macro region with a specific emphasis on collaboration in research and innovation and smart specialization strategy that all regions in Europe are now implemented after the starting period in 2014-2020. Other major theme is to provide a methodology for the design and implementation of a common smart specialization policy and regional innovation strategies. And the suggestion we collect in our policy brief are building obviously on the result of all the ARING activity and outputs. The policy brief is organized in 3 main issues. So the identification of area and topics, and the analysis of institutional mechanisms that could be more effective in promoting interregional collaboration and above all the stakeholder involvement. And then the identification of some funding programs that may be used to sustain such a collaboration. And then there is an annex in the policy brief. I suppose that most all of you already know the policy brief. I suggest to have a glance to the paper, and as could be another recommendation to share the policy brief, sorry, among stakeholders and why not policymaker, but it will be maybe the last recommendation for conclusion. The content of the policy brief is structured with an introduction, an executive summary in which you can find a glance of the main suggestion, then recommendation and suggestion for implementing interregional collaboration in research and innovation. In such a folder, a specific folder is regarding the funding programs. Is not the aims of a ring project and of the policy brief to give a list of funding programs, but just to suggest such programs and mechanisms that could be useful to reach common vision of smart specialization in all the macro region, the Alpine region, I mean. The recommendation we find out in the policy brief regarding these main items, so the bottom-up approach, the identification of common priorities, the information sharing, matchmaking, and the implementation of the Alpine S3 Lab that we already see with this morning presentation. Bottom-up approach and identification of common priorities are strictly linked. Why? Because of the need to involve the most relevant stakeholders. So, as well as the bottom-up approach emphasize the importance of involving relevant stakeholders to know their needs and to know in deep what a regional strategy could be addressed to. The identification of common priorities needs require an active involvement of the stakeholder. In the identification of priorities, several challenges emerged during the project. First is a limited research and innovation cooperation in the Alpine region. Then a little presence of USALP topics and priorities in the S3 of the USALP countries and regions for the programming period, obviously 2014-2020. So for the reason, the policy brief gives suggestion because it is important to understand what are the smart specialization topics shared among the Alpine regions members to foster the interregional cooperation. And another issue very important is the need for communication and more involvement in existing platform and discussion forum. The recommendation that could be found in the policy brief regarding these items. First, as I mentioned before, is the involvement of stakeholders. The important to find relevant mechanism and process to foster collaboration that may stimulate not only stakeholders, but also the public administrations involved. And the policy brief suggests those mechanisms. I can show just a graphic structure of the synthesis of the process, mechanism, and funding. Then we can deep the slide and go on. Regarding the collaboration mechanism, the focus is main on two items, the structured dialogue and the information sharing. Why? During this morning, and also we discussed along all the process that conduct to this final event. There are several platforms and several platform and tools to identify common priorities. But there is a problem because not all these tools are ready to use. Sometimes it's difficult to understand how to use it. They need skilled and intelligent searching and scouting. And as we mentioned before, I'm now here, and after lunch we heard several presentations, and now we know several mechanisms. So in this case, I focus once again on the matchmaking parallel and seed lab, just to generate and promote this information sharing. The recommendation. First, we have to think that the project is direct to public administration. And so there is the need to improve and implement the dialogue between public administration and stakeholders. How? As we mentioned before, there are many platforms, but problems arise from the understanding of the information and collect the information and acting according to stakeholders' needs. So obviously the information sharing recommendation first is focused on the importance of the public administration commitment in this mechanism. And in this case, it's very important, it's essential to create a favoring and welcoming ground for assure the continuity and the efforts among stakeholders. Regarding the structured dialogue, we refer first to the Alpine S3 lab. So I go quite fast. And the lab is also very interesting structure because it involves AG1 leader and members. And it is important to validate the lab, but also because AG1 leaders and members support its own members in organizing activities. So to validate and to organize following activities. In this session, the matchmaking show that the experience in matchmaking, parallels, and seed lab point out the importance of the public administration's commitment. And once again, the political will is essential to go. This is just a graphical picture to how the Alpine S3 lab has been implemented, and you can easily go into deep in the paper. This is, as you know, a flow, and in which public administration and research and innovation actors, stakeholders, start with the will to create the S3 lab, and they request to use AG1 leader. In this, there is the importance of the AG1 leader validation then after the process. There is very interesting notes that we focused on our policy brief. the lab is a very interesting structure. First, as you know, there is the 3 no rules in the Alpine macroregion, but in all macroregion. So there is no new funds, no new structured new organization. So in this case, the lab does not require a new organization or legal permanent entity. The lab is set for a specific time of period. And so it is exactly on the line with the macro-regional strategy. The lab also is a place in which public administration and stakeholders could talk and identify the specific topic they want to invest. And also the lab involves for sure the USALP AG1 leaders a member. This is my last slide, but as all we know, the last is not the least. In this slide, we focus on funding scheme and the activities that could be supported with existing financial instruments. A special focus we found on along the project journey is the I3 instrument and the Interreg Interregional Innovation Investment, I mean. And very interesting was the joint synchronized call, the Innovation Express 2021, that another macro region experienced in 2021. The Interreg Interregional Innovation Investment are just running with the first calls, and at the moment the Innovation Express 2021 don't have new calls, but they are interesting in the way of how they could function and how they have been implemented and supported. As you can see, we focus on some financial instruments. There are other instruments, but the challenge is that there are not dedicated funds for macro regions. So there are no dedicated funds for embedding smart specialization in inside macro regions. And so the effort is to make sort of leverage with regional, national, European funds to embed those strategies. Last new programming period 2021-2027, the interregional dimension is one of the 7 enabling conditions of the smart specialization. In this case, macro-regional strategies could enter inside the smart specialization once in deep, and there is a sort of embedding process with the 2 strategies. So the last recommendation is first the political commitment, if possible, among our partners, and to find the priorities, the prioritization that could embed both the macro-regional strategies, in this case, the Alpine macro regions, and the smart specialization that at the moment, all the European countries are implementing. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Roberta. And I think that the idea that there is an embedded process ongoing in the EU's strategy, but the political commitment still needs to be found sometimes, and the willingness also at the regional level to synchronize some funding schemes that are existing, but we realize, of course, that it's a difficult process to be implemented. But of course, I think this project, maybe it's a good start to promote this this synchronization of funds and also through the other projects that were presented, such as ArtNet.
Yes. If I can, I think that this project is very interesting project because it's a start, just the beginning of a more complex path, and hope you want to go on.
Okay, so I thank you again, Roberta Ruggeri, and I will move on to the next speaker because also we are a little bit late and we all have trains in the end to catch at 4. So I would call Harald Ladich from the Regional Management Burgenland, who will present the result of the Research and Innovation Policy Live Scenarios, which were implemented within the Interreg Alpine Space A-Wing project.
So hi, the first innovation is that I'm not coming from the regional management of Burgenland because of the 1st of January 2022. Okay. We were merged. It's also an innovation process into the Wirtschaftsagentur Burgenland. Also, this was connected a little bit to this innovation process and also to one instrument, a one-stop shop, because two institutions which are dealing with regional development, EU funds, funding, also coaching and regional development is one of the political decisions that two institutions which are not doing the same, but which can be using the synergies are now merged and they are integrated in one institution. It's the Wirtschaftsagentur Burgenland. But maybe we'll come later on to the
for my lack of German, so I couldn't pronounce the word, so I used the English name. Sorry for this.
So as we are late, I try to be quite quick. So the objectives and results, as we can see, to increase the level of application of multi-level and transnational governance in the Alpine space with the right policy mix achieved in coherence with the public authorities' vision. Their synergies and the complementary approach on S3 and improved environment for the collaboration, including academia and business sector. There we have 3 points: the development of a unique path for shared R&I agenda to ensure strong focus on Alpine region characteristics and potentials, setup of Alpine Policy Lab to develop and test public authorities, and activation of Alpine Seed Lab. The methodology shortly and the timing of the Alpine S3 Lab is the design, 5 study visits as part of Alpine Transnational Lifelong Insertions. We all know COVID was a very challenging situation for all of us because we cannot be at the study visits in person, but we have to match it in another way, like in online meetings and other solutions. But I think we managed it in a quite smooth way. 3 policy pilot actions as a part of the policy pilot live scenarios, and 2 webinars as a part of the successful S3 implementation webinar. And then there, as a result, the policy brief roadmaps to sustainable Alpine S3 Lab. And here you see also the timing. It's from April 2020 to April 2022. So we are now finished with this process. Here you can see some slides about the shared thematic focus areas emerging from surveys of Alpine Space Public Administration. We have heard about these topics in the morning, but also yesterday and the last meetings, and I don't want to go into detail, but we all know digitalization, mobility, sustainability, social innovation, life science, health, and tourism. These are the most prominent points in this field. and shared procedure to address thematic focus area within the specific methodology is to choose one of the R&D priorities, then the Alpine S3 lab meetings, and identify the common recommendations within the VPT through and set up a policy brief. Yeah, R&I governance subjects to mutual interest. Here you see a lot of points which have been developed and written down. The establishment practices of RIS3 programs and topic prioritization, governance of RIS3 working group structure to the embeddedness in strategic and policy frameworks, good practice policy instruments to promote RIS3, what support service framework is provided by the region to implement RIS3, the triple helix feedback loops and citizen engagement, input and feedback from stakeholders, crucial for the implementation of RIS3 or R&I agendas, the emerging industry and new topic integration, inputs on how to manage new topics for key emerging industries, R&I as a key turning point for the post-pandemic recovery. We all know, when the end will be, no one knows exactly. Now we're in a more or less good phase, but today I've heard in the newspapers and also in our medias that we are faced, can be, as you see in Portugal, that the new corona crisis has started and no one knows, maybe it can be also in summer, that these new mutations will come to us, and to speak here from an end of the pandemic situation is a little bit too early. The sustainability and RIS3 are marked externalities considered. Is there a social audit completed? Is our environmental impact assessed? Is social impact assessed? Then the impact assessment indicators and benchmarks for success in RIS3 and flagship projects, success stories, key players, opportunities for facilitating exchange on technical topics where value added benefits exist for each regional RIS. Oops. It's just a short slide where you see which partners have been engaged in the whole process. We can switch to the next slide. Policy pilot live scenario overview. The first point of this, public administration aligned on topic and methodologies, a shared approach which could be commonly tested on different territorial, that means also in regional and national context, depending on the territorial needs. The public administration worked with territorial stakeholders to create a policy pilot action related to RIS3 topics. Chosen topics were digitalization, we have heard about this, digital transformation, sustainability, through circular economy, also we've heard about this topic, and smart mobility, a very important sector, especially also for Burgenland. Maybe we come later on in the discussion to this point why mobility and smart mobility is very important also for our region. Public administration took stock on what their territory was doing associated to this topic, working with their own territorial stakeholders to determine an appropriate overview. Public administration used project and non-project elements to arrange virtual peer review alignment sessions to exchange and analyze together the S3 making process of different territories to promote mutual integration of knowledge. And the involvement public administration create 3 fact sheets, 1 per PA, to detail the territorial action and feedback from the ecosystem which occurred over the project period. Policy pilot life scenario overview 2. Here you see what has been done in the different regions. I don't have to go into detail because every region knows what has been done in their region, and also we can write it here. I think it was a quite successful initiative, and all the regions were very active in this topic. Now we come to Burgenland's platform internalization. We have heard about this the last meetings, and also yesterday we discussed about this, and also today there were some hints about this. What is it? It is a quarterly workshop with key R&I stakeholders in Burgenland and counterparts from other territories to discuss cutting-edge research and development issues on specific thematic topics chosen for the focus area on the meeting. The next meeting will be on the 30th, that means on the last of June, and hopefully we will present there the final report also of the blueprint version of our project, and we will also discuss this topic. We have it on the agenda on the 30th of June at our next meeting of the platform internalization. Why was it created? Burgenland created this platform to address a gap in its R&I landscape associated to permanent stakeholder engagement and promote enhanced stakeholder dialogue on R&I actions in Burgenland, internal view, and R&I breakthrough inspiration in key partner territories, external view. Who was involved? Internal views from Research Burgenland, Land Burgenland, University of Applied Science, Regional Management of Burgenland. Yeah, this was now integrated, as I've told you before. Energy Burgenland, also this is renamed from the last week, not Energy Burgenland, but now the change is Burgenland Energy. I don't know why, but also this is a new firm's name. The Chamber of Commerce Burgenland, Scalability and Micromobility SMEs. And some external views from different stakeholders from the different regions over whole Europe, from Finland, Slovenia, Bavaria, Tyrol, Vorarlberg, Vienna, and Lower Austria. So from different regions also coming from Austria. So what was or what is the outcome of this platform internalization? Over 40 stakeholders included in the workshops, with over 15 stakeholders attending multiple sessions, over 20 projects presented from Burgenland, Alpine Space and beyond, highlighted good practice R&I activities on circular, digital and mobile subject areas. A new project-oriented strategy to develop digital circular services in a rural context was formulated. Many cross-sectoral international learnings plus insight from public authorities, businesses and academia, innovation utilization to overcome the physical restrictions of COVID-19 measures. So here you see an overview about the circular, mobile, digital, who are the partners, what has been presented. Very interesting. And we are now preparing the next meeting, as I mentioned before, on the 13th of June. Also there we will have some international partners who will present some new ideas or some project from the different regions of Europe. And then in September or October, we will have the next meeting because now the first calls of the new transnational programs have started or are in the preparation. So maybe there we can have also a first glance what is the outcome or what is the stand of point in the period 2021 to 2027. So quarterly we have these meetings, and also if someone of you want to participate, we are open to all of us. Also either as a normal participant, or you can present some ideas, some projects, whatever you want in this field. Now, the conclusions from the testing of the Alpine S3 lab and policy pilot life scenarios. All three implemented strategic actions to develop their regional strategies on key topics: digitalization, sustainability. That means also circular economy and smart mobility. Also utilize techniques to help bridge across the full ecosystem and enhancing the inclusion of the quadruple helix and promoting stakeholder engagement. Governing of S3 processes was uniquely different across the observed territories, also with the strategic support to help to bridge the across more developed and less developed strategies, landscapes, and this should be prioritized. So the other points are very important, especially the last thing is this is a unique topic which sits at the intersect of mobility, sustainability, and digitalization, and plays on territorial strengths of all involved players. So these 3 points are very important for us: mobility, sustainability, and digitalization. The next steps and final remarks. The policy pilot activities enabled enhanced sharing within the Alpine region on the governance development path and how to enhance cooperation and discussions among PAs on different topics such as circular economy, digitalization, or smart mobility. This method was developed as part of the Alpine S3 Lab, a tool to promote improved mutual learning and capacity building amongst public administration organizations in the Alpine space. The Wirtschaftsagentur Burgenland will continue the platform internalization, as I mentioned before, beyond the end of airing to enhance the stakeholder engagement processes in the territory. Burgenland stakeholders would like to partner with key regions to continue this mutual exchange beyond Alpine space and in cross-border areas, especially as COVID pandemic wanes and more travel is allowed. And the cooperation with the other two PAs is being explored, potential opportunities at the intersect of smart mobility, digital transformation, and sustainability. In the sector coupling of energy, automotive with e-vehicle transitions. So the conclusion is stay tuned for the final report and reach out if you'd like to join and provide impulses at Burgenland platform internalization.
Okay, so thanks a lot, Harald.
Yeah, it was quite short, but we can discuss it. Yeah, our vision or our example of Burgenland, especially the platform internalization. Yeah, what is standing? I've explained it a little bit, but if there are some questions, maybe you can will ask me.
Yeah, of course. It was really interesting also how within the project the S3 Lab concept was developed to engage different stakeholders on common topics. And I think this is really strategic, especially related to the EUSAP strategy, and to make different regions collaborate on the same topic. It's really important within, because of course we always talk about the EUSAP strategy, but that's a construct of the political willingness of the European Commission as well as of the regions, but sometimes the regional authorities collaborate with other territories as well. So I think we have to render, let's say, EUSAP a live scenario and a pilot scenario in this way in order to promote strategic actions. Otherwise, it's just on paper that the territories collaborate. So I would move on to the last roundtable of today, and the roundtable will focus exactly on the role of public authorities in promoting research and innovation actions in the Alpine region, and especially on common research and innovation actions. So we will still have Harald, to which we will ask a few questions. And we also have connected Annalisa Biazzoli, who is part of the S4 coordination group of the Friuli Venezia Giulia Autonomous Region. I hope, Annalisa, you can hear and see us.
Yes, I can hear us. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Super. So I would start first in asking to Annalisa. Well, first of all, I would like to introduce the fact that most of the topics that were dealt and presented by Harald, such as digitalization and digital transformation, sustainability and mobility, were also part of the transversal policy priorities which were identified within the AlpGov2 project, which basically runs the EUSAP structures and funds basically strategic actions of the action groups. Indeed, the EUSAP strategy identified for this period 4 main priorities. One is the carbon neutral Alpine region with a focus on energy transition, innovation hub for green business models, focusing on tourism, for example, and circular economy, smart villages. So we have a link with the digitalization and digital transformation, which was mentioned earlier, and spatial planning, which is one of the core issues with mobility as well. So I would first ask to Annalisa Biazzoli to present a little bit how their region, the Friuli Venezia Autonomous Region, is working on these topics, and what are the concrete actions that are being implemented within their S4 coordination group.
Yes,
Annalisa, we cannot see you.
Yes, I'm afraid I have a problem with the video.
Okay.
I can solve it.
We can still hear, so that's fine.
Okay, but I try to share my presentation. So. Can you see it?
Okay. Yes, if you can. Oh, no, we see the presentation mode. We see the presenter, sorry, screen. You have to switch if you use.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon to all. Thanks to the invitation to speak here today. I try to answer to your question, giving an overview of our Friuli Venezia Giulia Regional Sustainable Smart Specialization Strategy for the present period of European programming. As you probably already know, Friuli Venezia Giulia is a small region situated at the heart of Central and Southeast Europe. One of the most important characteristics of this area is that it's a hub for science and technology with a large community of foreign scientists and students and a remarkable network of public and private research centers. The region has a high percentage of high-level research for its population. In addition, it's interesting to quote the regional analysis elaborated by the European Union, the Regional Summer Innovation Index, for which in 2021, Friuli Venezia Giulia is in the group of the strong innovator. Besides, our region is strongly committed in developing regional policies focused on internationalization. Consequently, our territory could be considered a favorable context for innovation. Turning now to our regional research and innovation context, the regional research strategic framework for all the intervention is represented by the regional smart specialization strategy. The strategy in force for the 2014-2020 programming period was formally approved in 2015 after a wide process of entrepreneurial discovery. In preparation of the present 2021-2027 programming period, taking into consideration the development of the territorial context, the regional administration considered necessary to involve the regional stakeholders in a renewed entrepreneurial discovery process. For this purpose, in 2019, the governance of our smart specialization strategy were reorganized in order to guarantee a deeper involvement of the regional actors according to the quadruple helix approach and the optimization of the activities as well. With specific regard to the EDP, the region chose to assign the coordination of the whole process to Lavoro and Sviluppo Impresa, a regional agency which works for the increase of both the competitiveness of the regional economic system and of employment. The scientific support of Area Science Park, a national research body, which, as you know, is also an innovation agency, is also envisaged. And then we envisage also to capitalize the experience of our clusters to guarantee a deep involvement of our regional stakeholder. As you can see in the slide, eight working groups were activating consistently with the area of specialization identifying in the previous programming period, and taking into account also the national, European, international strategic orientation. Next slide shows to you the composition of the working groups, which envisages the participation of all the components of the quadruple helix, and namely representatives of research bodies, enterprises, institutions, and civil society too. Here you can find an overview of the process implemented for the update of our strategy. Besides the working groups I have already mentioned, we opened an online consultation and organized 3 public events in order to involve as much as possible our regional stakeholders and the civil society as well. As you can see, more than 350 persons were involved in the whole process for the revision of our strategy. Turning now up to the update process, after all the steps envisaged by our methodology and our regional governance, in June 2021, the regional government approved the preliminary new version of our strategy, which was approved in the final version in December 2021. At the present time, the renewed strategy is under formal negotiation with the European Commission. With reference to the result of the update process, I'd like first of all to highlight that the EDP was developed with a parallel update of the regional vision for 2030. The changes expected as a result of the strategy for the new programming period was elaborated by the regional policymakers, starting from the previous changes expected, taking into account the national, European, and international strategic framework and the needs emerging in the context of the EDP as well. So the identified expected change is a transformed productive system, more innovative, resilient, and sustainable, also from a social point of view. Exactly to outline the importance of sustainability, our strategy has become sustainable smart specialization strategy, as you can see also from the logo, recently updated consistently with the new vision. The final definition of the strategies were reached after a process of both the selection and synthesis in order to reach reflects the results of the comparison with the territory and the requests emerging in the listening process, providing response to current challenging and being able to focus and to ensure concentration of resources and investment for the next programming period. The EDP, as you can see in these slides, the integrated scenario that we chose envisages 5 areas of specialization which are consistent with the national smart specialization strategy, but also with the areas of research and innovation of the national recovery and resilience plans, with the European industrial ecosystem, and with the sustainable development goals of the United Nations agenda for 2030 as well. In this slide, you can find a comprehensive overview of these 5 areas. So the first area is energy transition, circular economy, and environmental sustainability. It represents an innovation in our strategy and gives an autonomous value to some thematics which were considered in a cross-cutting way in the previous version of our strategy. The second one represents an ideal continuation and development of the previous strategic productive chains, metamechanics, and the home systems, taking into account the issues of smart factory and giving an added value to the whole regional made in Italy productive components. Then you have the maritime technology, sustainable waterborne mobility, and its land connection. It represents an evolution of the previous one with an increased and added accent to the sustainability and inclusion of the land connection as well. The development trajectories are fully consistent with the three pillars of the REACT-EU strategy, so green transition, digital transitions, and resilience. The fourth area is dedicated to health, quality of life, agri-food, and bioeconomy. It represents an ideal union of the previous agri-food and smart health in one health perspective too, so human, animal, and environmental as well. Last but not least, cultural heritage, design, creativity, and tourism, in which both the field of culture and tourism are present, with an explicit mention of design as well. In the next slide, you can find an overview of all the development trajectories identified for each areas. With reference to the topics that have been identified as priorities at the EUSALP level for today's roundtable, I like to specify that a carbon neutral Alpine region and innovation hub for green business models are in particular consistent with the trajectories identified in our new sustainable smart specialization strategy. In the following slides, you can find underlined in green the areas of specialization and their reconnected trajectories of development coherent with the topics which represent the focus of today's meeting. So now I'll give to you an overview of our areas and the trajectories of development, outlining which trajectories are consistent with the topics of our interest in today's meeting. So in the first area, you can find the following trajectories: circular economy, sustainable buildings, a system of higher energy efficiencies for industry, and smart grids. In particular, the last two are coherent with the carbon neutral Alpine region, specifically for what concerns also the theme of hydrogen, as you will see more in details in the following part of my presentation. In the second area, you can find the second and the third trajectories of development, which are consistent with the innovation hub for green business models. The other trajectories are solution and technologies for product innovation, technologies for the management and development of the organization, and the innovation of social system and the development in manufacturing. The third area is devoted to maritime technology. In particular, the first trajectory envisaged green mobility, which results strictly consistent with the innovation hub for green business models. Then we find the second and the third trajectories connected with smart mobilities and CMAID in FVG. The fourth area is devoted to quality of life, health, agri-food, and the bioeconomy. It represents a very rich area covering a wide range of subjects. Among the trajectories, you can find also the trajectory devoted to the development of an integrated economic approach to increase the value of territorial resources through the integration of innovation, intervention, and sustainable circular supply chains. Then the last area is with cultural development and tourism as well. In particular, there is a trajectory concerning with the sustainable innovations to build greener destination, which is consistent with the theme of today's meeting. With reference to the connections between transnational cooperation and improvement of the research and innovation actions on the selected topics, I'd like also to mention the participation of our regional administration in some smart specialization strategy and thematic platform, which represents for us a strategic framework for a European and transnational point of view. The present slide shows our involvement in different platforms, which are respectively pertaining to the macro themes of today. In particular, I like to quote the platform concerning energy, so for sustainable buildings, but also industrial modernization, concerning in particular efficient and sustainable manufacturing and bearing plus. With reference to Berry Plus, I'd like to underline that the forest industry side streams is one of the identified value chains from our region. And then also the agri-food platform with the S3 high-tech farming partnership. More specifically, in terms of energy from biomasses, one of our region objectives is the identification and development of a regional pilot. Besides, I'd like to outline some strategic action or initiatives which enhance some regional strategic activities in the perspective of transnational collaboration or taking advantage of European structural funds as well. So in chronological order, I like to start from the project S3 Unica, Smart Leadership University Campus project. It is an ongoing project, as you can see in the slide. Our region is the lead partner. Other partners are in our territory, the University of Udine and the University of Trieste, but also some partners from Romania, Spain, Finland, and Poland. The key objective is capitalizing on the experience gained with the Smart Campus project in order to implement and improve the measures envisaged by the regional energy plan by targeting energy saving policies in urban centers, in particular implementing this action in an experimental way within the building stock and infrastructures on university campuses. Then it could be interesting to quote also the engagement of our regional administration in the field of sustainable tourism. With reference to these issues, as you can see in the slide, the accommodation facilities known as a scattered hotel is supported by our regional administration from a lot of times. That the first regional law envisaging this kind of instrument is the number 2 of 2002, Organic Law on Tourism. And over the last 20 years, the scattered hotel has received continuous support from the structural funds as well. At the present moment, the regional law 3 of 2021, the so-called Sviluppo Impresa, reaffirmed the importance of this model, especially for what is connected with the development trajectory, sustainable innovation to build a greener destination envisaged in our new sustainable smart specialization strategy. In this context, also the support of the European Regional Development Fund for the present programming period is expecting with a financing line with a budget of 13 million, and also with some action in the context of the inland area strategy, in particular for smart mountain. Turning now to the theme of hydrogen, it represented a strategic issue for our region. The Alpine region is at the forefront of the transition towards a low carbon or even carbon neutral economy. Opportunities related to the hydrogen as energy dense carrier with multiple uses and the potential to play an essential part in achieving deep cuts in emissions and improve security and resilience of the energy systems have been increasingly outlined also in the current geopolitical scenario. The European Commission has adopted recently the REPowerEU implementation plan to reduce the dependence of Russian fossil fuels, which will require also diversifying gas supplies and increase the level of renewable hydrogen. Hydrogen accelerator has been proposed to support the realization of these ambitions. As you can see in the slide, through the Venezia Giulia region is committed to facing this challenge responsibly, not only at the local and national level, but also thinking of a mutual future in transnational terms, with the idea of sharing knowledge, skills, and innovative solutions for the deployment of hydrogen-based solutions, strengthening local hydrogen ecosystem, and building interregional value chain. Our region is one of the 9 regions from France, Germany, and Italy who signed in 2021 the EUSALP letter of intent on strengthening the cooperation in the field of hydrogen-based solutions, addressing primarily sustainable mobility. The regional administration launched a process last year towards the establishment of a hydrogen valley, extending not only to its territory, but also enlarged to the cross-border area with Slovenia and Russia. The initiative aims to enable the emergence of integrated hydrogen ecosystem on transnational scale for climate change, mitigation, and regional economic development. The interdepartmental working group, together with the representatives of regional research and industry, is hardly working on implementing the model of hydrogen valley, which is based as common characteristic as you can find in the present slide. So first of all, large in scale, the project scope goes beyond mere demonstration activity and compromise multi-million euro investments. Secondly, a clearly defined geographic scope from regional focus to national, and in our case, macro-regional point of view. Besides broad value chain coverage covering multiple steps in the hydrogen value chain, ranging from hydrogen production to storage and distribution, and in conclusion, supply to various end sectors. Several sectors are in fact touched as mobility, industry, and energy and uses. The scientific and innovation systems of Friuli Venezia Giulia, and namely university, research institutes, and pole of innovation, is deeply involved in the process, which is focusing in particular on advanced infrastructure and competencies in material research, such as hydrogen production, storage, and exploitation, knowledge and competence in underground storage of gases useful to investigate safe hydrogen storage on a large scale, then digital competencies for the design and optimization of distributed energy systems, and finally, the training and education of new generations contributing to the creation of new energy transition related jobs. In this context, I would like also to mention the National Recovery and Resilience Plan of Italy that serves the education and research a specific mission, the mission number 4, with the aim of strengthening the education system, digital and technical scientific skills, research and technology transfer. As showed in the slide, the component 2 from research to business intends to support the research and development investments to promote the innovation and diffusion of technologies to reinforce competencies. The systemic actions foreseen cover the entire chain of the research and innovation process, from the fundamental research to the technological transfer, providing different levels of technology readiness level and diversified networks among universities, research centers, and enterprises. All the interventions are implemented through competitive procedures. More specifically, the investment 1.5 innovation ecosystem aims at establishing at the national level 12 territorial ecosystem based on the partnership among universities, public research bodies, public territorial authorities, other public and private bodies, highly qualified and internationally recognized. It is worth mentioning that the University of Friuli Venezia Giulia and the National Institute of Oceanography and Applied Geophysics based in Trieste, in our region, have applied together with the universities and research centers from Veneto region and the 2 provinces of Trento and Bolzano for the establishment of a northeastern Italy innovation ecosystem. The proposal passed the first phase of evaluation and has entered in the second phase. It aims to rapidly extend the benefits of digital technologies to the key specialization areas of the Northeast territory, the so-called Triveneto area, boosting digital technology in the setting of industrial manufacturing sector, agriculture, sea, mountains, construction, tourism, culture, health, and food. The project proposal alliance stems from the analysis of the smart specialization strategy of the concerned regions to best plan activities, thematic spokes across the 7 macro themes of the regional innovation strategies have been defined. Also, ecosystem for mountain innovation are included. This assembly shows the preparedness of the regional ecosystem to work jointly on topics of common interest to explore the research and innovation potential also to macro-regional scale. So I hope to have given to you an overview of our strategy, and in particular with regard to the subject mentioned. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Annalisa. And I think I will connect this. Well, first of all, I would like to underline that S3 strategies were born under the willingness, let's say, of the JRC and the European Commission, also to promote territorial cohesion and across the territories. And of course, here we see the double, let's say, side of what we presented this morning in the first roundtable, because that focus more on the use of, let's say, if they're private or public funds, but to fund startups and enterprises. And here we see on the other side how regions perceive their strategic use of funds. And I think these two realities have to be connected, because in the end, you're working for the same aim. And however, on the regional side and the European Commission side, there is also a purpose to make the territories also in line with the sustainability goals, and as well to promote territorial cohesion in the whole European area. So on these, I will go actually a little bit off topic of what we discussed about, but I would like to first ask to Harald and to Annalisa. So if you think that there is a need so how do you see that transnational cooperation would improve your action on research and innovation priorities identified by your region? And do you think there is also a need for a transnational approach in identifying the common topics? Because of course here, as we saw in Annalisa's presentation, the of course S3 strategies are based on the territorial assets. But do you think there should be also a transnational perspective in these? And when the topics are selected, do you think that a transnational approach and collaboration on different topics improves your outputs on the territory, or do you not think that? I think this is an interesting question. And
first of all, let me say 2 words about the presentation. You see here the different approach. The very strong region as Veneto, Friuli, where they have a compact strategy developed, and then our smaller region of Burgenland, where we are not so in favor or not engaged, or we have some deficits in the R&D development, and so we have to focus on specific topics and to concentrate really on our strengths, and not willingness to catch all the themes which can be important, because we don't have the capacities in our smaller region. Also, this is very interesting for me to see the different approaches to this. And our main goal is really to concentrate, and also to concentrate our manpowers and our institutional capacities to some specific topics, and there to develop them further, and not this very global and very big strategy approach which was presented by my colleague. Coming back to the question, for us as Burgenland, it's very important to have this cross-border, international or transnational approach, because we are a small region, just lying between the old western part, Germany, and the new eastern part, Hungary, Slovakia, and we have always been in a very specific situation also within Austria. So for us, it's important to cooperate with different regions from different aspects, and also, as I mentioned before, on specific topics, because we don't have a university, so we have to cooperate with also our knowledge transfer, information flows, and whatever. So for us, this transnational or international approach, also for our firms, because we don't have bigger companies in our region. As I mentioned, the biggest one is Burgenland Energy. They have about 700 employees. So you can see that from bigger companies, we are far away in our region. So we have to concentrate and to cooperate and find maybe some cooperations also in the field of private companies. And in combination, we want also with this internationalization platform, but also with other hubs, the cooperation between the firms, the public authorities, about the politics, and also the science. We were just developing and cooperating also with other universities coming from Vienna and from Graz, to find here some solutions and to strengthen our region. But the transnational and international approach for us as a Burgenland region is very important. And also we use the EU funds, or we try it, very strategic, because we are a partner in 3 cross-border programs with Slovakia, Hungary, and Slovenia. And we try to set the themes in all 3 programs to develop common solutions also for all the cross-border aspects, and also transfer this on the transnational level to be partner where the topics are relevant for us as Burgenland.
Thank you, Harald. I would like to hear also Annalisa's opinion on this topic. So do you think that research and innovation actions are improved through transnational cooperation? And do you foresee also a role on transnational cooperation in identifying the topics? So do you have this perception or?
Yes. Our regional administration believe very strongly in transnational cooperation. This translational dimension is part of our story as a cross-border region, also for our geopolitical dimension. And we think that the strategic involvement in initiatives as the European Smart Specialization Platform I've quoted before, but also in some strategic project or action with a cross-border dimension are very important in order to enhance some strategic regional actions, which have, first of all, territorial importance, but which could open their perspective and goals with the collaborations with other territories in terms of creating synergies or complementarities as well for the benefit of all the territories involved. So our belief is that this transnational dimension could enrich the action envisaged for the support of the research and innovation systems. We have also a strategic action called SIS for the enhancing of our scientific and innovation system, and our perspective is also to enhance the international dimension, because we think that this kind of actions could enrich our system and give to our region, which is also a small region, some opportunities to
Harald doesn't
better
a small region.
All is relative.
Exactly. No, but this is actually really interesting because, well, of course, for me, I come from the Lombardy region, so you're both really small regions to us. But the idea of S3 strategies and of this transnational cooperation that we're talking about is exactly this: that also bigger regions collaborate on the same topics with smaller ones. And the aim and the goals are the same for all of us in the end. And I think it's good that we're moving towards strategies that include at the core sustainability as one of the key challenges to be addressed at present, also in line with the European Commission Green Deal. I wanted to ask a specific question to Annalisa, but let me know if it's appropriate, because in your presentation you mentioned a lot national plans, such as the Recovery and Resilience Plan, which was implemented in 2021 in Italy and also in other countries due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I was wondering, however, you never mentioned the National Research Agenda, which is implemented by the Ministry of Research at the national level. So I wanted to understand if you take also that into account in the definition of your regional policies and regional strategies, or if the bridge to that strategy, which focuses mainly only on research issues, so it's mainly academic focused, is given through the involvement of universities in your entrepreneurial discovery process. So I wanted to understand if that is taken into account, or if you, in the definition of S3 or S4 strategies, you focus more on the policy side and on structural funds at the EU level.
Yes. I'll quote very briefly the reference to our national framework, but it was extremely important in the definition of our new strategy and in the activation of the entrepreneurial discovery process. Also for the definition of the working group, we took into account the European level, but also the national research agenda to define the subjects of the working groups, and our intent is to be coherent with both the national and European level, also to facilitate some future actions in terms of collaboration with other subjects at European and also at national levels. So our goal was just it. And so for us, it was also the National Smart Specialization Strategy was an important reference in all the process.
Thank you. Yeah, I imagine based on the composition of your working groups, which were really similar to the the last question I would like to ask to both of you. So first Harald and then Annalisa. So do you think that macro-regional strategies, and more specifically EUSAL, but also other macro-regional strategies, because I think both of your regions are in other macro-regional strategies as well, do you think that they are a platform to be used to improve these research and innovation actions at not only at the transnational level, but also at the regional level? So do you see another value in these strategies? And is there currently a political ownership of these strategies? Or do you think that things should be improved and aligned better with your S3 or S4 strategies?
I think every initiative can bring some positive effects. So I will not say that the macro regional strategies cannot help us also for an improvement of some innovative actions. But nevertheless, and I also have good contact also to other regions in Austria, also with the political level, it's not very intensive discussed. Also the engagement in the macro regional strategies. For instance, if there are some political meetings, then the question is on the political level, who will present from our region? Normally the governor should be there. Now he cannot, he wants not, then second, third, and someone has to be there, but it has not the priority one, also on the political level. We try to be also part in some working groups, especially in the Alpine space, macro-regional strategy, not so in the Danube strategy, but it's also a question of capacity, human capacity, because there are a lot of meetings. On the other hand, yeah, there is no funding and no money, and so also there we concentrate on the programs. It means projects where the Alpine program gives us some funding opportunities. The macro-regional strategy, yeah, it's a discussion around. They can identify or help us to bring some specific teams more in detail, but without money, it's very hard, yeah, to have here the same strategic level, also the political level, as other instruments.
Thank you. Annalisa?
Yes, we think that EUSALP and macro-regional strategies in general play a very important crucial role in the process of supporting research and innovation in our territory in an international and transnational perspective as well. In accordance to the governance views in place at Italian national level, Friuli-Venezia Giulia region participates to two macro-regional approaches, respectively EUSALP and EUSAR. We are aware that creating a joint political and technical platform of collaboration involving different states and regions, and not only at the level of key stakeholders, but also of the public authorities entitled to design and implement a sectorial priority in the respective policy fields, is quite changely and requires time. But it is a very important challenge for us, and it could give an added value for to our actions for supporting research and innovation. So we recognize the added value of this process if well supported with the proper governance tools as well. The creation of long value chains is impacting our regional economies that need more incisive investment in research and innovation, also in today's context with the consequences of the pandemic crisis as well. And we are also being aware of the importance of new instruments capable to support technological transfer and research at macro-regional scale. So we are firmly convinced in the potential of the macro-regional strategies, and we hope consequently that the collaboration in the Alpine region could evolve effectively thanks to the contribution of all the parties, so that the effect of the action could be maximized and to the benefit of all the territory as well.
Yes, thanks a lot for the outlook. And I think from both of your comments, macro-regional strategies are a good platform, but still need to be improved and start up, let's say, in an effective way. And I think macro-regional strategies are really a challenge on multi-level governance, because of course you speak from the public authority side, but macro-regional strategies also try to implement a multi-level governance approach, which is even more complicated because it tries to have both a bottom-up and top-down approach on things and topics, and therefore it complicates a lot the outlook on everything. So they need to be perfected and started up in a better way. Of course, EUSALP, for example, was established only in 2015, so it's not so many years that it has existed. And I think I can speak for the EUSALP bodies. There is the realization that things still need to be improved and perfected, but I think we're on the right path, and these kind of projects such as ARING help defining common actions which could be taken, and the outlooks for the action group 1 of EUSALP, which deals with research and innovation, I think will be taken into account by the AG1 members, which represent most of the EUSALP region. So I thank the panelists of this last session, and I would move on to the wrap up and conclusions. And actually I would ask to either Professor De Luca or Floriana Mulazzi to conclude a little bit the airing session of today and to give a concluding remark on the overall project activities and the overall outputs. But first you need to speak and then the picture. I'm joking.
Sorry, I was just saying maybe we can greet all the participants from home and here with us together, and we all partners that participate into the project. So come on here without remorse. And while Professor will give his final salute, maybe.
So the final statement is a final picture. In
Yes.
So,
Chiara, Roberto.
Can I stand up as well? Otherwise, I'm the only one sitting. I want to stand up as well.
Oh.
Otherwise, I'm the only one sitting, and I look like
It was nice.
like a president.
Oh, I can sit next to you.
Realization of the project. So.
Grazie. But maybe it's better if someone just stood. Maybe it's better if someone just stood. Maybe we have a grand angle. So, hey, Professor Beluga. Hi there from home. Thank you. Thanks. You have the lead. Thanks a lot, Harald.
yes, just two things. Firstly, okay, we are Interreg project, so a public funded project, trying also to making collaborate business, academia and public administration. But basically, we do think that our main is quite different from that of the private companies. To say our main aim is making the public money the best for common good, for the largest quota of the society. So this is our moral scope also in this kind of project, and also all the institutions that are funding this kind of collaboration aim at this. Have you seen how it's spectacular and very satisfying, rewarding? Say what happened for on the private side of this kind of project, like venture factory, acting as a factory. This is to say, catching every piece of the value chain, put it together in a very easy way. All that for us is a very grave difficulty, that is to say, overcoming bureaucracy, cost of information. All these kind of difficulties, they are able to internalize, like a big corporation. That is the sense of the big corporation. But we also are not looking profit for profits. We're looking for create the better condition for private business, okay? But also in a very sustainable way, in a very sustainable development, new path. This is our scope as public institution. So I'm very proud of what we have done. That is to say, that's not quite difficult to solve in a private way, these kind of things, but we do believe that also this kind of innovation, this kind of interaction must be much more profitable for the largest quota of the society, of the citizen, of very less developed territories. That is quite easy to catch innovation in a large city, in a big university, and put in a big metropolis. But we are doing our best to improve also the poorest community. We are working for the community. That is to serve for the whole people. Also to convey the sense that the community is made up of a lot of people that give something and also get back something else. Not also in a horizontal way, but also in a vertical way, that is to say, in a historic point sense. You know, we are here because this magnificent building has been built, or better, has been bought for public scope. So this is the sense. We also fight for building this kind of sense of attitude. And I'm very firmly convinced that we reach a very important point, creating stable collaboration. So I wish ourselves to find next time in phase with the next program. We are waiting for the next call by the internet program, and be sure that we will contact you again. So enjoy your last day in Milan and see you.
It's a promise and a menace.
Yes.
At the same time.
You will not escape us. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Absolutely, thank you. I'm waiting for an invitation. Burgenland.